So today, we're going to talk about how to answer question 4. Many of the questions you're going to see in high school will be longer questions that will be asking you to make a claim and support the claim with evidence from the text. This is a good example of that. It is a complicated question, which means you need to break it down into its parts. Let me start by reading the question. Justice Frankfurter, in his dissenting opinion, which means on the losing side's opinion, said that the will of the majority should not be overturned by the Supreme Court. What he means by that is that when the majority of a state of its citizens want a law and the legislative branch of government creates a law that is signed by, in this case, the governor, if a law is created by the legislative branch and the executive branch in a state, he believes that the court should defer or give in to the West Virginia legislature and the Board of Education. And then it says, explain his interpretation of this issue. Don't worry about the part where it says similar to the Texas Johnson flag burning issue. That's a case we're going to do a little bit later. So what the important piece to look at this first is who's saying this, or who is at the, who's at the core of this question. And the answer to that is Justice Frankfurter. So when we look at his name first, and then we have to figure out what is it about this person or what he said do we want to look at? And then it says, we want you to explain his interpretation of this issue. In other words, what's he saying about the decision that the majority of the court made? Again, he's on the dissenting side, meaning his side lost. What he's saying is, what he's doing is criticizing the decision of the majority. Okay? He's criticizing the decision of the majority. Now, how do we take his name and what the question is and create it into a topic sentence that explains the answer? At least it answers it, but it doesn't give any details. Remember, your topic sentence should be short, and it should just answer the question, but not provide any evidence in the first sentence. Please avoid putting quotes in your topic sentence. So let me read to you what I wrote in the topic sentence. Justice Frankfurter's interpretation of this issue is about who has power over the laws in government. He felt that the State Board of Education had the constitutional authority to make students salute the flag. Now, where did I get that article? Where did I get that quotation? I got that quotation from the article. Here's the quote. The State Board had the constitutional authority to make students salute the flag. I didn't use the whole sentence of the quote. I took a piece of it. I only took the most important piece of the quote, and you'll notice how I combined it with my own words. That's what we're looking for generally, is you to weave or to combine your words with a quote to demonstrate that you understand the quote and you understand the question that's being asked. I'll keep reading. Frankfurter was afraid that if a small group of people could not obey a law, minorities can disrupt government and civil society. In this case, the minority group was the Jehovah's Witnesses. And what he's saying is, if the majority of a people in a state, if the government creates a law, we can't allow a small group of people to not obey the law because it will disrupt government. We can't allow a small group to not obey a law. And of course, when you look at the majority opinion, what they're saying is we can't allow the majority to create laws that take away fundamental freedoms. He felt that the final word on laws should be up to the majority and officials that the majority elect. If citizens of West Virginia dislike laws enacted by their representatives in the state legislature, okay, that's what he's saying. We should probably add a little sentence here. And I'll keep reading. Justice Frankfurter thought that the courts ought to stand aloof of this type of controversy. That this meant that the people should decide on the law, not the courts. Now, one of the tough things about this is that Justice Frankfurter is saying basically that the will of the majority should overrule the decision of the courts when it comes to interpreting or deciding whether a law is constitutional. I think since this case happened in the 1940s, I think that the general consensus about what the courts did might have been different prior to this case. Justice Frankfurter is almost saying that the Supreme Court, which he works for, should not be as powerful as the will of the majority, which, again, this was the losing side decision. But it is very important that we understand that Justice Frankfurter was representing probably the majority voice of Americans, where they felt that if a decision is made by a majority of the people in a state, why should a court in the federal government rule over a majority and take away a law or declare a law unconstitutional when the majority wanted the law? So he is representing the voice of what a lot of Americans felt at this time. But the problem is that we don't live in a democracy, and that was one of your vocab words. We live in a republic. And what that means is, in a democracy, we are able to vote and decide what happens in our government, but the majority of us are also controlled by a constitution, meaning we can create laws as long as they don't take away other people's fundamental rights. So in a republic, we have the Constitution, and it prevents the majority from always getting what it wants when it talks about the majority taking away the rights of a minority group. In a democracy, the majority decides but is not limited to a constitution or limited by a constitution. So Justice Frankfurter is almost talking about a true democracy versus a true republic. But again, that's another question that we'll be talking about later. What I want you to understand about this answer for question 4 here is this is what an exceeds the standard answer to question 4 would look like. You don't have to have as many quotes as I did. I think I put 4 in here. But I wanted to let you see what an exceeds the standard question or answer looks like. And I also want you to see how we're weaving in, combining my words with quotations from the article. That's really what we want you guys to start practicing and getting ready for, because this idea of having a topic, sentence, and a claim, and then having supportive details combined with your words, meaning the supporting details are the quotations, combined with your words are what are going to prepare you for high school and make for really strong writing in the future. In no way are we saying this is easy, but we do want you to practice and get ready for what's coming, and what's coming is high school. Thank you.